All right, hey, good morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone coming in. Just so everyone gets counted, gonna say it one more time. Put your name and your organization in the chat. Looks like most people have already done that. And then I see we have a good stack of call-in users. Go ahead and just send me an email at the end of this presentation with your name and your organization telling me that you attended the presentation so that we can have a record of that. Really appreciate everyone's time this morning, and I know that you all are very busy people, so I am going to do my best not to waste it. We're going to get started quickly. We're going to have just me talking today, and I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go quick, give you just some pointers on applying for this funding, and then take any questions that you have available. You can go ahead and start asking questions right now. So if you are online, I will go ahead and look for a question and answer box in the presentation screen. Go ahead and start putting questions in there. You can ask a question during the entire presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will start answering all of your questions. And then if anyone has a more complicated question that they want to be taken off mute so that they can, that we can talk about it, we will also have an opportunity for that at the end of the presentation. You'll just go into the chat and say, hey, I'd like to ask a question over a voice, and we'll go ahead and do that. For my call-in users, that's one of the downsides of doing this is it's hard for me to unmute you all. So if you'll just email your questions in, you can email them to me. I will try to check my email during this and answer any questions that you might email in if you're available, or you can just ask those questions at the end. You may see 2 or 3 or more people show up in the panelists. It's just going to be me talking. We do have Kate with us today, Kate Caton. She's one of our new admins, so she'll be helping me with some administration behind the screen and making sure that we have a good presentation today. And then Miles Vaughn, our division director, may pop in, and Rebecca Heffner, our deputy director, may also pop into the presentation today. So again, good to see everyone, and we're going to get started right now. So this is an open RFP for HOME-ARP. And HOME-ARP, as many of you know, is a funding source that has come out of the COVID response from the federal government. It is money that is coming through the HOME program. However, if you're used to working with other programs in the HOME program, it is very different than the HOME program that you're used to. It's kind of a one-off thing, which is why we're doing this as a mandatory RFP, so that everybody understands what this funding source is, what the federal government is anticipating for it, and you all can just have all of the information. So you can see here, and I'm not going to read slides to you, that this is American Rescue Plan money that's coming down through the HOME program. And they released $5 billion of this nationally. The city got $11.5 million of these dollars, and it is for rental housing, supportive services, non-congregate shelter, tenant-based rental assistance, exclusively. So there's some things that they're doing through HOME-ARP that they've never done for the HOME program before. So if you're looking at this going, am I understanding that I can apply for supportive service dollars through the HOME program? You are understanding this correctly. So again, very different than HOME that you might have seen in the past. And like I said, the city got $11.5 million. $2 million of that has been reserved by the city council for a priority that they're working on. And not all funding will necessarily be distributed through this RFP. So just to let you know, there's about $9 million, $9.5 million that will be available. And again, all of that may be awarded through this RFP, or it may not. Again, these are the only eligible activities that are available under this RFP. And these are all of the, we're not eliminating anything that's in the notice. These are all of the activities that were available in the notice. So tenant-based rental assistance. I see several of our current tenant-based rental assistance partners that are on the call today. Good to see you guys. This will run very much like standard home tenant-based rental assistance. What is different is the eligibility, and we'll get to that on the next slide. Supportive services. So there is a litany of supportive services that you can propose to provide under this RFP. Case management is one of them. Mental health counseling is one of them. Substance abuse counseling is another one of them. But there are a lot. You're going to ask, well, how can I find out what's eligible? I'm going to show you. So hold on just one second. We're going to get there. And then there's also construction-related activities that are available under this proposal. Acquisition development of non-congregate shelter or rental units. And we'll talk about this more, but I'm going to go over a couple of things just because I want to make sure no one wastes their time in putting together a proposal, especially since it's going to come around very quickly. The rental housing that is allowed in here is supportive rental housing for the eligible populations that we are about to discuss only. So there's a very sort of small window of eligible clientele that will be allowed to use these types of rental units. So be aware of that as you are considering placing a proposal with us for this funding. So who can receive, who are the eligible populations? So homeless or at risk of homeless, using our standard practices for determining who is and who is not homeless or at risk of homeless. Then there is the kind of the domestic violence category, and there's a very long definition for that. And then other populations per home guidance. You're going to see that this is really unusual. I'm just putting the notice up there, and I'm going to place the notice in the notes and everything that comes out. Read the notice. There are several eligible categories of populations that are eligible for this fund, but they are very specific. And the guidance that is given by HUD on who is eligible for this funding is very specific. So if you are a homeless service provider, this funding is targeting your population with some caveats that are related to COVID. So if you're not sure, send me an email and we can have a quick chat, or I will help you go through the notice to see if what you're proposing to do is eligible under the HUD notice for this funding. I see lots and lots of new faces on this call. I'm actually very pleased to see all of the folks that have dialed in. But I wanted to do some level setting to make sure that everyone kind of knows what they're getting into when they're contracting with the city. And this comes from experience of people wanting to do good work and wanting to get involved with the city and then getting frustrated with how some of this goes. The city of Charlotte has some very significant contracting requirements that if you are a new or a fledgling organization, or if you've never worked with the city before, may seem daunting at first. We're here to help you with it, but excuse me, all of these are in place for a reason. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of them right off from the bat before we move forward. So we have some really significant contracting requirements. We have a level of insurance that's required. We require detailed invoicing, and then we have financial expectations from all of our partners that they comply with all local, state, and federal audit requirements, and that they are following generally approved accounting practices at their organizations. So if you have a question about whether you're doing this or not, or have some questions, please let me know. But they are some significance when you go into contract with us. Some very detailed insurance requirements, very detailed invoicing requirements, and some expectations of what kind of financial systems that you have in place to work with us. Most city provided funding sources are inflexible. So this funding source is a HUD funding source. So what that means is that over and above what the city generally requires, you also have to comply with things that HUD requires. One of those most significant things is that funding is provided on a reimbursement basis. With HUD funds, we are always reimbursing you for activities. We are typically never funding you up front, and this is a HUD funding requirement. So what that also means is it sometimes will take 60 days or more to process an invoice. So that means that you have to have the financial capacity to float these activities for up to 60 days. And also, it's important to know that we usually don't fund the full cost of an activity. So that means that if you want to provide case management, we're typically going to provide the support just for that case management. We are going to allow a little bit of admin in this, but typically the admin that's provided under these contracts isn't enough to cover all of the admin that you may encounter in running one of our projects. So you need to have other funding sources basically to help cover the cost of moving these forward. So just wanted to share that with you first. All right, so getting into the proposals. One of the things that HUD is very big on in all of their programs, and especially with this COVID-related response, is that we are not duplicating activities in the community. So one of the first questions that you need to ask is the service that you're providing or proposing to provide, can it already be provided or acquired in the community? And it's one of the first things that we're going to check, is that it can't be, especially with this HOME-ARP funds, duplicating any other service that's being available. Second one, on page 19 of the RFP, there is a detailed checklist of all of the things that you need to submit to us for this application. It is a minimum checklist. You can provide more information, you can provide additional documentation, but you have to provide at least the required items that are on that checklist. So if you are, I have the RFP sitting up in front of me. I would recommend you do the same. And you can flip right to page 19 of that RFP, and I'm doing that right now. So in my in the PDF, it actually shows up on page 21, just if anyone's flipping through it. And it shows you the activities that you might be applying for and what is required. Some of those required forms are forms that we've provided you. So they're actually in Word format out on the city's website. You can just go download those, but it's going to show you what we're looking for. So any questions you have on that, go ahead and start sending those to me. And again, you're welcome. Like if you have a project, you fully want to explain it, you don't think that this documentation does it, you can provide additional information to make sure that we fully understand your proposal. So use the numbered forms. For staffing, there's a staffing page. I think it's form 4. You don't need to list all 57 people that work at your organization or all 16 people that work at your organization. We're just interested in the people that are going to be working on this project. So complete the application form using the Word document provided. You can click into those boxes and you can type as much as you want. It's just easier for us to follow what you're doing is if you respond directly to that Word document. So you'll see what I'm talking about when you download that Word document, but you can actually go into the form box and you can type your answers into the box. If you need to type for 3 pages to answer one of those questions, go ahead and do it in that box and just let that Word document keep on expanding on your screen. Then you're going to PDF that and you're going to send it to us. There's no page limit or response limit. We want to make sure that we fully understand what you're proposing. So you can send us anything that you need. Okay, we're wanting to be as open as possible, so we have put no limits on the amount of funding that you can request. I already told you how much money is available, but here's what I would say about funding limits. Typically, council does not want to, in situations like this, approve 1 or 2 proposals. They're usually looking for, in something like this, at least 3 or maybe 4 proposals. So you can do the math there, but that's what you need to be thinking about as you're working on this and you're correctly sizing the type of request. Of course, you want it to be sized correctly for the need that you're trying to meet. I would also say that it'll be very helpful for us, and this is going to be a process that we're going to go through, we're going to look more favorably on proposals that are flexible in terms of the amount of money that you need. Could you scale down your ask? Could you increase your ask? And make that sort of evidence in your response if you can do that or not. You know, if you're working on a construction project and you got a $2 million gap and that's what you need to fund the project, then you got a $2 million gap. But it's very helpful for us to know kind of, you know, the number of folks that you want to serve and maybe an amount per person of that costs, so that you want to do 25. It gives us the option to come back to you and say, hey, we're not going to be able to recommend 25, but we would love to recommend 15 households that you're serving. So just be thinking about that as you're writing the application. And then the city always looks very favorably on proposals that, one, leverage additional funding that's out there in the community, or that you're raising privately, or that you already have at hand, and promotes partnerships. The city really wants to see new organizations come into this work and wants to see our well-established organizations supporting those organizations. So none of that is a requirement, but just from my experience, those are things that always go well when we're starting to talk to council about what of these projects that they're going to approve. Again, so some important notes, and again, some of this is duplicative. Your proposal must be a non-duplicated service. So if someone else is available, is already doing what you're proposing for that same population, that might be a duplicated service, and HUD would say that's an ineligible activity for the HOME-ARP program. You may apply for tenant-based rental assistance and supportive services in the same application. You may also apply just for TBRA and just for supportive services. If you're going to apply for a NCS or a rental development, please apply as a standalone application. I know some of you are going to say, well, we also want to provide some supportive services to people that we're providing non-congregate shelter or rental assistance to. That's fantastic. Send me 2 applications, one for the supportive service, one for the development, and then just in those applications, reference what you're doing. Hey, we're going to buy this hotel and renovate it, and we'd like to provide these services to that population. It's highly recommended that you read the notice. So I'll have that posted back on the website where you got the RFP from. I will put it out through all of our channels so that you have the link directly to HUD's website where you can read the notice yourself, because there's very detailed information in there on what supportive services are allowable under this and what are not allowed, and what eligible populations are, who's eligible and who is not eligible under this notice. So please read it. The one restriction that the city is adding to this is that you must propose a project that can be completed in 4 years or less. So I'm going to say that one more time. It's got to be 4 years or less. You might say, hey, Warren, we've got an idea and we can get it done in 2 years. That's fantastic. I love projects that can get done in 2 years. I love projects that can get done in 1 year, but we're only going to do 4 years or less. And you're going to read in the notice that there's a longer time limit for this funding source. And so let me just go ahead and tell you why we're doing that. We're doing that so that we have some runway, that if there is money left over with the projects that we award, or one of the projects that we award just isn't able to get going, we have some time to reallocate those funds and get it spent down within the time period that HUD is allowing. So how proposals will be evaluated: qualifications and experience. Do you have the qualified staff to do the work that you're proposing to do? And do you have experience doing what you're proposing to do? Home funds and HUD funds in addition are very difficult. And so it's very trying for new organizations that want to try something new for the first time to do it with federal funds. So we are looking for folks that are proposing activities that they can provide some qualitative and quantitative evidence that they have actually done this work in the past, and that that they will be successful doing it under this RFP. Availability to complete the project and program work in a timely manner. We want you to show how you're going to do it. We want a timeline. We want to know. We want to be able to hold you to what you say you're going to do and get it done within the time that we're looking at getting it done. There's a lot of need out in the community. We're going to be looking for projects that can be implemented quickly, where there's staff in place, so that we can get, there's lots of people that are still need significant assistance in our community based on the impacts of the pandemic on our community. And so council is very, very interested, and have said so at several council meetings, at getting this money out the door and in the community very quickly. Proposed approach. You're going to want to explain to us how you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Make sure that we fully understand what you're doing, how you're going to do it, what the impact of that's going to be, and if your approach is unique or novel, make sure that we know that. And then cost effectiveness is always important. We want to understand the costs, fully understand the costs that are involved in your program. And so you're going to want to provide a detailed budget of what your costs are. If there's any additional costs that can't be covered by the HOME program, how you're going to cover them. So for folks that are providing, that are doing construction projects, we provide some very detailed information on the types of budgets that we want, the pro forma that we want. For the supportive services folks and TBRA folks, a budget that you are writing that is in more detail. So we provide you a budget page, a financial design page, but it really just covers the money that you're asking for. We also want to see budget information on how it fits into the overall approach and that you're covering all of your costs. And then acceptance of the terms of the contracts. We are happy to send you a sample contract from the city. For those of you online that have worked with us in the past, you know they're long. So there are no changes. If you've contracted us in the past, there's no big changes that I know of. But if you'd like to see kind of what you're getting yourself into before you actually go through the process of writing up this proposal, we're happy to send you that information. So today is the RFP conference. We released the documents, the RFP, late last year. So hopefully this isn't your first time looking at it. We will be taking questions up to the 14th. After that, there will be no more questions. So that is to give everybody an opportunity. What I will do is we will post this video. So questions that I can answer in the video, we're going to post this video so people can go back and watch my answers in the video. Anything that I can't answer right now or comes in now, between the end of the video and the 14th, we will answer in writing and post so that everyone gets the answers and everybody has equal access to those answers. So the proposal is due 1/28/22, and that should say USB drive. So the good news is that you don't have to give us multiple paper copies, but we do want a physical USB drive with your digital proposal on this and delivered here to the office. You can drop it off in person, you can mail it in, but it's your responsibility that if you send it in through the mail, that it gets here by that date and time. So that is the end of my prepared remarks. And I'm going to now go through the questions that are available. So here's also my email. Questions that you don't want to answer right now or to ask right now, you can just email them to me. So give me just a second to scroll back up through the chats. I see lots of stuff coming in here. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. I'm also going to try to open up question and answer. Hey, I might need your help opening up the question and answer. Oh, no, I think I got it. So here. All right. One of the questions was non-duplicative. Several organizations are providing supportive housing to people who are chronically homeless, but we still need, yes. So non-duplicative would be if there is a large deposit assistance program available and you want to provide deposit assistance for a duplicated population that's already, and there is a deposit assistance program available, that would be considered a duplicative program. What you just have to show in your application is that the population that you are trying to serve, so for instance, chronically homeless, that there's currently, about 400 units, and I'm making up numbers because I don't have it in front of me, available of permanent supportive housing in the community. It's all used, and you still have this many people that are waiting for this service. That is perfectly good evidence of a non-duplicated service. If you have additional questions about that, just follow up with me after this. Several people asked. Can we have this presentation? Yes, I will post this presentation to the RFP website. I'll try to get up there today if our webmaster is working today, and if not, it will be Monday. So another question was, in the construction and acquisition development cost, would it be on the reimbursement basis? We can talk to you about that, and we can look at what the guidance is on that. Sometimes we can structure home funds in the form of a loan that allow us to provide you the funding to the project prior to the activity, so that you don't basically have to get a bridge loan, then acquire something, and then provide it to us. So on that end, there is some options other than having to get reimbursed for large construction costs, but that's only when land's involved, so that we can lien the property. I'm still looking. Yeah, so there's a couple of questions in here about the red tape around doing development process under this RFP. So we're going to look at those projects. We're going to consider them. The ones that are going to be most advantageous are the ones that we're most confident in that will move forward. So I can't provide more information on that until I actually see the proposals. But our interest is in making sure that the money gets out the door in a timely fashion, and that we know that there's a lot of needs out there that need to be taken care of quickly. So yes, we understand that construction projects are a beast of their own. We're just going to be looking to the application to see how far along are you on something. Do you have site control over it? How close are you getting to site control over that project? all of those things will be part of the discussion process that we have when we make our recommendation to council. So there's a question that was asked about the geography. Home funds are countywide funds, so projects that span the city and the county are eligible under this. So a couple more questions about non-congregate shelter. I'm just going to refer you back to the RFP, the RFP and to the notice. The notice has a really good description in it of what non-congregate shelter is. So I'm not gonna try to re-answer something that I think HUD's already done a good job answering. So I'm going to point you to the notice, and again, I'm going to post a link on our site to the notice that provides these funds, so that you can read it. After you read it, if you have additional questions about whether a project's around the eligibility of your project, shoot me those emails, and I'll try to get those answers to you before you apply for the funds. When do we anticipate announcing funding awards? So we have a hold slot on council's agenda for February 28th to present recommendations to council. And many of you know how council's schedule can go. Doesn't mean that because we have a hold on a slot for the 28th means that we're going to get it. It could be early March, but we're trying to get this done at the end of February, because we also, as we're doing this, we also have to do a substantial amendment to our consolidated plan for the use of HOME-ARP funds. But we wanted to get the recommendations in place so that we could amend the plan to reflect what we're actually going to do with it, then staff guess, and then have to change it again. So a good question on cost effectiveness. Measuring, is it cost per unit or the requested amount per unit, or both? We typically look at both of those things, but in the past, staff's always been, and council actually has always been more interested in the city's portion of that per unit, if you're bringing in other costs to cover it. And then one of the other things that goes into that kind of effectiveness category is the length of affordability. So we compare, the length of affordability that we're getting. But with this approach, I'm hoping that all of the stuff that's provided is really perpetually affordable stuff, and there's not an affordability limit on it. So yeah, really council, we look at both, but council's typically more interested in the amount of funding that they're providing into a project, not what the total cost of an overall is. Okay, there's some specific questions about specific projects that I will get back to you initially. If I'm not answering your question directly, I think it's a little too specific for general answers, and I'll just answer to you when I get when I get done with the presentation. Yeah, so someone's asking a question about is the reimbursement a federal requirement? Yes, the reimbursement is a federal requirement. Yeah, and someone's asking, can this program be used in conjunction with other public sources? Yeah, we just got to make sure that, again, you're not double dipping. There's not duplications of services or duplications of federal funds going into the same specific activity, basically paying for something twice with HUD funds. But yeah, that another public source is a fine thing to use this money to partner with. Yeah, so could you use this with Housing Trust Fund or likey? Perhaps. Typically our Housing Trust Fund projects, the populations wouldn't line up, but if you have something in mind that you're already working on, that's something that we can follow up with you on. Okay, this is a great question. Someone asked, they did the math for me, 2 to 3 funding proposals that would be $2.5 million each. So we should assume the city is not interested in small proposals in the 50 to 200K range. 50 to 200K range. No. What I was specifically getting at was, you know, if you were coming in and you have a project that needs $6 or $8 million, that funding that full request through the HOME-ARP program is probably not a feasible path. But I hope that we get in some smaller proposals. I think that would be fantastic. Sometimes a $50,000 project or a $100,000 project is an extremely impactful project. So I would encourage you, if you are thinking about doing a project that is on a smaller range, I think we would love to see that come in. So someone's asking, and this is a great question, about when I say a partnership, what am I talking about, and can I describe an effective partnership? So the one that comes to mind, and there's been several, is the United Way got with several of our service providers and pulled in a whole pot of money, and they are working together to provide various services under the United Way umbrella. So various organizations that are providing similar services to different populations in our community. So the United Way is the one that's acting as the fiscal agent, but there's several of our homeless services providers that are using ESG CV funds to provide services in the community. That is a great example of a partnership. Several of our nonprofit providers nonprofit homeless services providers partner with for-profit and nonprofit developers to develop their projects. That's a great example of a partnership. So those are the things that we're talking about, and we're specifically interested in the larger organizations that have great capacity. We have some great small grassroots organizations that are coming into the game. We would love to see partnerships between those types of organizations. Is it a couple other questions that came in? If you are subcontracting, do all the subcontracting staff need to be listed out on Form 4? If they're provided direct services, it would be great to know who you are subcontracting with, just so that we can see what their experience is. So if you are providing services to a population and you're bringing in some professional expertise to provide a certain specialized service to that population, I think that we'd love to have some information on who you're contracting with to do that work. Is there a matching funds requirement? No, there's not a requirement. Again, we always love to see funds getting leveraged, but there's no requirement to do that. So again, someone's asking, do you want a separate program proposal? So you can write a proposal for TBRA and supportive services, and you can include that information all in one package. If you're going to do supportive in any type of construction project, then we need 2 applications separate. A lot of that information will be duplicative, so I know that there is some duplicative, but we want 2 complete applications for those, so that we can consider those requests jointly, and we can also consider them separately. Yeah, so another question came in, how do we know who we could partner with? This is a short turnaround. So the expectation is that there's probably some folks that are already working together out in the community. I do understand that this is a short turnaround. So really that's more focused on maybe existing partnerships that you've already made. So yeah, we do understand that it is a short turnaround. And that seems to be the end of all of my questions. So I did say that I would provide the opportunity for anyone to come on who would like to ask a question without having to type it into the chat. If you would like to do so, go ahead and just send me a note and we'll get you unmuted if you'd like to do that. A couple of more questions came in, and I'll answer those while folks are asking or sending me those messages. Would these projects need to be captured in HMIS? Yes. So we are working with homeless population. A lot of this is going to be focused at that population. So these projects will be captured through HMIS. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and I'm happy to post that. If you are an organization that would be interested in partnering with another organization to work on these types of projects, I'll be happy to publish a list of organizations that are interested in partnering. So you can either state it publicly in the chat, or you just send me an email or a message that you're an organization that would be interested in partnering on projects with other organizations. And I will post that list at the same location that I post the RFP. We want to do anything that we can to help leverage organizations to work together on this, because no one is solving these problems in our community in a silo or by themselves. So go ahead and send me those emails. I didn't see anyone interested in chatting with me, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to give it just another minute, and just want to say thank you again to all of you spending the morning with me. It's actually 11:15. We did go. We're doing pretty good. We only did 45 minutes. And I'm just going to leave this open a little bit farther so that you all can look at the chat. I see lots of organizations that are posting interested partnerships, so that you can get this information out there. All right, just a few more minutes. Thank you all so much for joining us. If any of you want to follow up, my email is right there. And I look forward to getting your questions and posting them, and answering your questions as they come in, and look forward to receiving your proposals. Thank you all so much. Have a good day.